Hello, gentlemen and ladies, and welcome back to another beer review. I am back from Australia, and I have made it out alive with no snake bites or scorpion stings or kangaroo kicks to the face. But what I do have is a plethora of beers, and the one that I'm going to be reviewing today is one of those, and this is by far my favorite one that I had when I was in Australia. If any of you know me at all, this is an obvious choice. Yeah, let's just get into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. It is Young Henry's in collaboration with the Foo Fighters, the Foo Town Lager. Let's take a look at this thing. It is very golden yellow, very clear type of a beer. The head's not super strong. It's out of a can, which has been jostled around, transported halfway across the world. Yeah, whatever. But let's just get right into it and let's just try this thing out here. All right, got a nice like fruity kind of an aroma. Very light, a little bit of yeast going on in there as well. Kind of like a little bit of like pineapple, kind of a yeasty type of a flavor. Let's try it out, why don't we? Thing is pretty good. This thing is so good. You know why? Because this is brewed by Dave Grohl himself. That's not actually a true statement, but this is a lager beer. I'll get into a lot about how this beer is produced and the relation to the Foo Fighters in just a quick second. But this is a very limited edition make, so if you guys actually find this beer somehow and get it, let me know. But I don't know that a lot of my viewers are actually going to be drinking this beer. I had the privilege of enjoying this beer on tap, and I do have to say that I did like it a lot better from the tap. I thought it was a lot more of that like hop fresh, kind of that fresh, fruity, and floral hop kind of aroma flavors from the tap beer were really, really good. This is a lot more kind of died down. They probably bottled the cans before they made the kegs for the tap beer, but nonetheless, just a little bit slight sweet maltiness, and then also just a little bit of a slight bitterness with a good amount of floral and fruity hop flavor characteristics at the end. It does drink more like a pale ale than a lager. So let's just talk about this beer. Because this is one of the beers that, like, the story is a lot more interesting than the actual flavor and taste. So this is brewed by Young Henry's, which is a brewery out of Sydney, and you're also going to notice that it says the Foo Fighters on there. That is because this is a collaboration beer with the Foo Fighters, the band themselves. They are doing their Australia-New Zealand tour this past couple of weeks. Well, actually, at the time of filming, they're actually still on tour. I think they play Auckland like tomorrow night. And in preparation for this tour series, the Foo Fighters have set up a couple of pop-up bars and venues, one of them being in Sydney, one of them being in Melbourne, and they wanted to brew a beer for this. So pretty much what happened, I actually went to the pop-up hotel in Sydney. It's called the Foo Fighters Hotel. This is where I got this pretty sweet t-shirt, and pretty much it was just, they just took over the bar. They had this beer on tap, and you could also get the cans. There was also a merchandise shop where you can buy t-shirts and hats and, you know, bathrobes, stuff like that. And yeah, so Young Henry's actually brewed a beer for this pop-up event, which is actually really, really cool, and was also why it makes this thing so limited. The hotel was actually in Sydney for only like 4 days, and then they moved to Melbourne, and it's also only like open for like 3-4 days there as well. So very limited production, as you can imagine, because they're only really supplying demand for like a week of sales. But it was a lager, 4%. I'm not sure about the EBUs, but it is a pretty bitter beer. Like I said, the draft beer was actually a little bit better than the can, to be honest with you. But nonetheless, I digress. It was a very hoppy beer, so IBUs are probably pretty high on this thing. So I actually might know a little bit more about this beer than if you were just to go on the Young Henry's website, because when I was in Sydney, I was bumming around the merchandise shop where a nice young gentleman called out to me and asked me if I was from Indiana because he saw my Colts hat and my Naptown tattoo. So I just get talking to this guy, and it turns out he's the organizing force that really put on this like pop-up venue, and it was also kind of the connection between the Foo Fighters, the band, and Young Henry's, the brewery, to get this collaboration beer going. So Nate Mandel, the bassist of the Foo Fighters, He said, you know, we want a lager that's, you know, nice, hoppy, fresh, kind of a new type of a thing. Young Henry's brewed it, and now then, you know, they're selling it, which I think is really, really cool. I don't know of many other bands that kind of do stuff like this. Iron Maiden does a beer, and I think Volbeat also does a beer, but not a lot of bands are doing like limited production, craft beer kind of things like this, which I think is also really quite cool. And of course, it ties in. Foo Fighters are like my favorite band. They're just they're so awesome. I love them. So overall, my trip to Australia was pretty freaking sweet. I'll get back into the other beers later, and I'll talk about, you know, the Australian beer culture in another video when we're drinking more Australian beer. But in this video, I want to concentrate on the Foo Fighters experiences that I had in Australia while I was there. So let's get into it. The first Foo Fighters encounter actually happened in Byron Bay, which is a small little hippie surfer town halfway between, you know, like Sydney and Brisbane. While I was there, I was doing doing some surfing, right? And one day before I went surfing, I stopped, you know, at this little snack shack and was ordering a panini. And the young lady that took my order kind of like went behind to, you know, gather some stuff. And this guy comes up and he was kind of like looking, you know, he's like, "Is there anyone here? Can I actually like get some food to eat?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, dude, she's just grabbing something. She'll be right back." I noticed he had a Foo Fighters tattoo right on his arm, like right here. I'm like, "Oh hey, that's a really cool tattoo. I like the Foo Fighters. I'm actually going to be seeing them in Sydney in a couple of days." Like, "Oh, that's cool. I'm going to be there as well because I'm the guitarist." I'm like, "Nah, no, you're not." "Yeah, no, I am." "No, you're Chris." "Yeah, Chris Shiflett." I met Chris Shiflett, the guitarist for the Foo Fighters, in Byron Bay. Do I have any photos of this incident? Of course I don't, because I was getting ready to go surfing. I just had my board shorts on, didn't have my phone there, couldn't take a picture. So, word of wisdom, everybody. Even if you're going surfing, always have your camera on you, because you might just run into the guitarist of the Foo Fighters at a snack shack ordering a panini. Because it happened to me. We just chatted for about 5 minutes, and I just tried not to, you know, freak out about meeting Chris Shiflett, the guitarist for the Foo Fighters. That was pretty sweet. Second kind of Foo Fighters interaction happened again at this Foo Fighter hotel where I met this guy who did and this was the day before the actual show, and so he was like, "Hey, you know, let me give you my number, text me tomorrow before you come to the show." I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right, yes sir, I will do that." So, you know, I texted him and I didn't get a reply. I texted him again right before I was ready to leave. Still didn't get a reply, and I'm thinking, "Oh man, you know, this guy's busy, he's got stuff to do, he's working, he's got t-shirts to sell, he's got, you know, beer to sell, whatnot." But then after the show, I'm like, "You know what, this guy's not trying to blow me off." You know, he told me, he gave me his number and said, "Hey, call, you know, text me." And so I just said, "Screw it, I'm gonna call him." And I called him after the show. He didn't get any of my text messages for whatever reason, I have no idea. I met him back at the Foo Fighters hotel, and it turns out he had a backstage pass waiting for me. I could have gone backstage at a Foo Fighters concert. I didn't, because the stupid text messages didn't work. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The show was awesome anyway. I was like 10 feet from like the front of the stage. Here's a couple of clips, and just enjoy the gloriousness that is Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters.
One last thing before I quit, I never wanted any more than I could fit into who I am. She'll remember everything I was to say. All my stress, so happy, everything, everything. We go. Let me guitar! There was guitar! Wow! Let me guitar! And then we all gotta dance! We all gotta dance now! Let's do it!
Yeah, it was a pretty sweet show. This is not the last time I'll be singing Foo Fighters this year. I'm singing them 2 other times. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to drink any more of this freaking amazing beer. I'm not just saying that because it's done with Foo. I actually really did like this beer. Again, it's better from the draft than this from the can. The cans they just taste a little bit older, and with a nice hoppy beer, you really want to drink those things fresh. And so I think the draft beers are definitely better than the cans. But again, I've got a couple of more hanging out in my refrigerator, and we'll get to those in due time. I got so many beers I got to review. I'm gonna start churning them out. Hopefully, after like the holidays, you know, this whole Australia trip, I'm gonna have some time to really sit down, drink some beer, and review it for you guys, for my viewers, right? I mean, I'm dedicating a lot to you guys, and I'm sacrificing a lot for you, you know? And on that note, I'm gonna have the Foo Fighters play us out. Bill O'Reilly, I hope you figured out what that means by this point. And as always, don't forget to tell your representatives that you support common sense, bipartisan gun control. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time on Relay. Cheers.
Last chance to meet us, motherfuckers. Here we go, ready? Listen. Everybody sing it. It's everything you'll ever feel is true forever. It's everything you'll ever feel is good love, yeah. One thing I'll ever ask of you, gotta promise not to stop when I say. Singing, that was a fucking beautiful